open and full economic and trade war. And the question now is, who will win? Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, we are now living through momentous days. And as I said on X last night, what Trump is now doing, I truly believe, is one of the most historic actions taken probably since Ronald Reagan helped bring down the Soviet Union and the communist empire in Eastern Europe. And I'm not embellishing or exaggerating for dramatic effect. We are now potentially witnessing Reagan 2.0 if Trump can play out his strategy regarding China. So let me set the table because the stakes now could not be higher. Frankly, for the Trump administration, for Trump's legacy, for the United States, for China, and really for the world. President Trump, as you know, has now slapped tariffs on almost every country in the world. A 10% baseline tariff. From this, he is now going after some of the worst abusers who have been taking advantage of us for 20 to 30 years. Most of these countries, in fact, over 70 countries already, I'm talking Japan, South Korea, the entire European Union, I could run down the whole list, Taiwan, Vietnam, are practically begging Trump to renegotiate a deal. They're lining up outside the door. Japan sending their prime minister. South Korea is sending their entire delegation. Taiwan wants to meet with him yesterday. The Europeans now want a deal desperately. So, one after another, they are bending the knee to Donald Trump. He is already negotiating much better tariff terms for our country and for our workers and our manufacturing. But there is one country that is now not just doubling, tripling down. They are now mobilizing for a protracted, prolonged trade war. And I believe it is the biggest mistake China and Beijing has ever made. The Chinese Communist Party may now signal their own death knell. The Chinese responded to Trump's tariffs by blasting Trump, being extremely nationalistic, saying that this was a threat on China's economic and national security. And so, remember, the Chinese already were tariffing our goods. This is going back decades now. 67%. 67%. In other words, they had massive tariffs and trade barriers to us. This is why we hardly sell them anything. All this talk about our big trading partner is China. Yes, it's mostly a one-way street. And as President Trump has rightly pointed out, the Chinese manipulate their currency. They lower the value artificially to make their exports cheaper so they can dump into the American market. They steal our technology and our intellectual property, which is a violation of every international trading rule in the business. And they dump their products. Their companies and products are subsidized, so their goods, their cheap goods, their plastic toys, everything that they make, pretty much go to Walmart, and it's a Chinese outlet store. So all of their cheap products and goods, they have been dumping them into our country now for decades. But we do hardly any trade with China in terms of exporting our goods to them. So this has caused massive trade deficits, huge trade imbalances, which has amounted to, and I'm not exaggerating, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, literally, over the last 20 years of our wealth, our jobs, our factories, all of it being outsourced to China. To show you how bad the discrepancy has been, Communist China and the United States trade about $580 billion in goods. Almost all of that is from China into the United States. Every year, China sells 500 billion into the U.S. market. In other words, we are their number one customer. We are their number one buyer. We sell practically nothing to them. They sell almost everything to us. They need us. We don't need them. And the problem now is that Xi Jinping, the dictator of China, who, by the way, is trying to revive the legacy of one of the greatest mass murderers that ever existed, Mao Zedong, Mao, a vicious communist butcher. Xi Jinping, drunk with power, as they say, pride cometh before the fall, believing now that China is an unstoppable military economic juggernaut, has now come out and said, we are in a fight, his words, to the end with the Americans on trade. We will not back up an inch. He has now staked his entire prestige of his leadership and that of the Communist Chinese Party on winning this trade war and breaking Donald Trump, and with it, America. He then imposed retaliatory tariffs on Trump. Remember, they were tariffing us before 67%. We had practically no tariff on their goods. Trump then hit him with a 20% tariff. They complained. They retaliated. Trump then retaliated saying, okay, you guys want to play this game? He hit him then with a 34% tariff. Now, let me tell you, if the Chinese were smart, here's what they would say. Largest customer, our biggest market, exports drive China's economy and its massive military buildup. We need the Americans. We need the American consumer. We need this massive market. Okay, we won't make 500 billion every year. We'll make 400 or 350 billion. We're still ahead. Take a hit on some tariffs. By the way, Trump was only tariffing them half of what they were tariffing us. So I would say, you know what, guys? Okay, I mean, we don't buy much American anyway. So who cares? As long as we can continue to sell Chinese goods, maybe not as much, but we still got a 2-to-1 advantage. No. They're getting greedy. They're getting greedy. And Trump specifically warned them, saying, rescind and pull back those retaliatory tariffs that you just imposed of 34% extra. Or I'm telling you, the next number I'm going to hit you with is 50%. Xi Jinping released a statement essentially telling Trump to go fly a kite. That China will never back down. And that now this is a fight to the end. So, at midnight this morning, 12:01 this morning, the 50% tariff extra Trump now has slapped on China goes into effect. China now is being hit in total with a 104% tariff on every single Chinese good. We are now in a full-scale economic and trade war with China. And let me tell you, I have never supported President Trump more in my life than at this moment. I have never been more proud of President Trump than I am at this moment, because I believe if he holds the line, and I believe he will, China now cannot afford to lose face. Not after everything that Xi has said in public, not after everything the media is telling the Chinese population. that America is bullying China, that America is attacking China economically, and that China now, according to them, will not and will never concede an inch in this trade war. So, we hold the cards. They don't hold the cards. In the end, they cannot win this trade war. And the longer now this tariff war goes on between us and China, China's economy will begin to buckle, it will crack, and it will eventually crash. And if Donald Trump crashes the communist Chinese economy, and this is the path now we are on, if Trump breaks China, as I believe he will, then China's crashing economy, like the Soviet Union, will lead to its utter military collapse as well. Ronald Reagan defeated the Soviet Empire without firing a bullet. Donald Trump may now take down the Chinese Communist Party and Communist China as well without firing a single shot. This is Reagan 2.0. 6:19, almost 6:20 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, my friends, we are now living through very, very historic days, and we'll see how historic it is probably the next couple of days or weeks. But we are now officially in an all-out economic trade war, essentially now a Cold War between the United States and China. As I speak to you, just about 6 hours and, 19 minutes ago, at 12:01, the Trump administration, thank you, Jesus, has slapped China now with a massive, crippling 104% tariff on every single Chinese good, every single Chinese product. The Chinese have already retaliated. They're going to hit us something with like a 500% tariff. Now, it ultimately doesn't matter because we don't sell anything in China, practically anything anyway. They've been tariffing us for decades. They also have all these non-trade barriers and regulations. So this has been a one-way relationship really since 2001, when I think the United States made one of the biggest mistakes in our history. And this was directly because of Bill Clinton and the globalist Republicans together. That was the birth of the Uniparty, where they agreed to allow China to enter what's called the WTO, the World Trade Organization. And the United States gave China the one thing it most coveted and wanted, most favored nation status. And so, for the last 25 years, they have had unrestricted access to our wealthy, vast market. Remember, we're the wealthiest market in the world. In the world. And the Chinese not only got unrestricted access, they were able to dump their products. They use slave labor. Sweatshops, literally slave labor. They manipulate their currency. They have no environmental or labor regulations. So they can make products at an incredibly cheap price. And that's when you began to see the phenomenon of you go to Walmart and literally everything is made in China. Everything is made in China. And that's when they began racking up these massive trade surpluses against us, for us trade deficits, $300, $400, $500 billion a year over the last 25 years. Trillions of dollars of our wealth was outsourced and transferred to China. Our jobs, you can't compete against slave labor. You can't compete against companies that are being subsidized by the Chinese government and with no environmental or labor regulations. So our company said, why should we build, I'm just going to make an example. Why should we build washing machines here? Why should we make T-shirts here? Why should we make socks or running shoes or sneakers here? We just make them in China. And then they'll come in tariff-free. And so millions, and in fact, according to one major report, China alone has taken away 4 million jobs from the United States. good paying, working class, manufacturing jobs. Gone. 60,000 factories. Gone. Trump now says this is over. It is bleeding our middle class. We have lost our entire industrial base. In fact, just to show you how dire the situation is, many of our military national security systems that we have require parts made or chips or aspects of it made in China. We have now become dependent upon China for some of our top military and national security weapon systems. This is a recipe for economic ruin and suicide. Now, as we learned during COVID, our prescription drugs, China, never mind the fentanyl that they're deliberately pouring in, that is killing 100,000 Americans every single year. Okay, I'm talking about, here, my insulin. My insulin is made in China. We can't make insulin here. Many of our needed prescription drugs and medications that we need for as Americans to stay alive, to stay healthy, it's made in China. So we have outsourced our most vital supply chains to the communist Chinese, which is making us increasingly dependent upon them. Trump is now saying this is over. The supply chains are going to come back. We're going to produce everything in America that we need for our military, national, and economic security. And moreover, we're going to cut this military monster off. This communist monster that wants to dominate Asia and eventually dominate the world. We are going to cut him off now at the economic knees. This tariff, if he holds the line, if he stands his ground, this tariff will economically break China. Xi Jinping, it's like the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. They got too greedy, too arrogant, too cocky, too overconfident. And they thought they could beat us, and they can't. They weren't in a position yet to beat us. Xi Jinping now has launched a war, an economic trade war against the United States that I believe he cannot win. We hold most of the cards. And now the Chinese are going to learn the hard way that if you go up against the United States and you go up against Middle America and you go up against MAGA, we are going to break your economic back. China's economy will crash, and with it, the entire Communist Party. 6:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868. I've been waiting 25 years now for a president of the United States to finally stand up to communist China. And this is now what President Trump is doing. To me, the stakes could not be higher. I believe his entire presidency potentially now is on the line. And I believe, like Ronald Reagan, if he sticks to his guns. And of course, Reagan in 1980s, it was more the military buildup and arming the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. I mean, it was obviously a different time, different circumstances. But to me now, for us to be able to bring China to its economic knees and potentially end this massive threat that they pose to the world without firing a single shot, just like Reagan ended the Cold War, just like Reagan ultimately brought down the USSR, I believe that Trump now could end our Cold War with China and bring the Chinese Communist Party down. And what I just want to tell everybody is, as I said on X last night, for 25 years, the Chinese Communist Party has been waging a war against us. An economic war, a trade war, a technology war, a political war, an ideological war, an espionage war, and in some ways, even a biological weapons war. Never forget what they did to us with COVID, ever. How they created it in that lab, how they released it from that lab, how Xi Jinping deliberately lied about what they did in Wuhan, and how they allowed it to go into the world, and millions of people died. China must pay. The Chinese communist leadership, in particular, must pay for what they've done. Never, never, never forget. And I want to read this from Mark on Messenger, and I'm telling you, it's absolute genius. I think he hit the nail right on the head. Jeff, Trump on this issue is 1,000% right. China needs us more than we need China. This trade war, these Trump tariffs, will cripple the CCP. There is no reason why we can't make the same products here in the United States that China makes with slave labor, by the way. If you look at all the products you buy in the United States, they all say made in China on them. This will create more jobs here. In fact, it would be awesome if we did, because then we could tell China we don't need your products anymore because we're making the same products here in America. China will regret having this trade war with Donald Trump. I agree, Mark. I think it's Xi's biggest mistake, and I think it's the Communist Party's biggest mistake. They took on the American giant at a time when they don't hold the cards. As Scott Bessent put it on an interview on CNBC, China has a pair of twos. We've got a royal flush. Our hand beats their hand. Will Trump now fight to the end the way China now is vowing to fight to the end? Will Trump hold the line? That's the question now. Listen to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. She speaks for the president, and she says, I just spoke to President Trump. Here's our message to China. Here's our message to Xi Jinping. Roll cut 6, Mike.
Countries like China, who have chosen to retaliate and try to double down on their mistreatment of American workers, are making a mistake. President Trump has a spine of steel, and he will not break, and America will not break under his leadership. He is guided by a firm belief that America must be able to produce essential goods for our own people and export them to the rest of the world. A strong America cannot be solely dependent on foreign countries for our food, medicines, and critical minerals. And America must always maintain a robust defense supply chain. Reprioritizing and strengthening our manufacturing industry are essential national and economic security issues of the utmost importance to President Trump. By focusing on supercharging the onshoring of American manufacturing, the president is already delivering on his promise to usher in an economic golden age for our country.
President Trump, don't get me wrong, buddy. I only have eyes for my wife, but I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. So, yes, he's renegotiating with 70 countries. Already we're hammering out better deals. Already they're coming saying they're willing to bend the knee. So already we're going to see massive benefits for American workers, for American manufacturing, for American industry, for the American economy. But the number one issue is with China. Everything comes down now to China. And that Xi, instead of pulling back from the brink, has now crossed the line. If Trump now says it's on and we're going to fight this to the finish, I can't believe the Chinese were this stupid. Xi now, the only way for him is to lose face. And if he loses face, he cannot hang on to power. So watch what's happening now between us and China. These tariffs now may be the most consequential and historic in human history. 617-266-6868. Let me set the table, and I want to go to the phone lines because they're jammed. What do you make now of Trump's tariff wall? What do you make in particular of him slapping 104% tariff on all Chinese goods? Do you fear it will lead to rising prices at home? That's what many are complaining about because they buy Chinese goods. Everywhere you go, everything's made in China now. Do you support Trump's trade war with China? And in this battle of wills between communist China and Trump's America, which side are you on, and who do you think will win? Ronnie in Boston. You're going to kick us off, Ronnie. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Ronnie.
And Kuhner Country. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Jeff, I was listening on Monday when you talked about Bill Ackman urging the president to please put a pause on this and and it was making me smile, Jeff, because what occurred to me is that following that advice is the one and only way that this all fails, which is why he's being given that advice by these shills and these hacks, is because they know better than anybody else that Trump has all the leverage, and this is going to be a massive victory for Trump. And, for Trump's part, Jeff, you can't just walk back Liberation Day. You can't just walk back everything he said on April 2nd and 6 days later buckle under the pressure. Well, I'm going to put a pause on things. It means the whole thing was a publicity stunt. It destroys Trump's credibility on any other major issue. And, when I listened to what Trump said on Liberation Day, I knew right then and there, this guy is in it for keeps, because you don't walk away from making a stand like this, not just to let the American people know that a golden age of renaissance of manufacturing and investments coming back, but to also put the entire world on notice, that stupid Uncle Sucker is done playing these games, and we're going to start using our leverage.
Ronnie, can you please do me a favor? Hang on. I'm up against a hard break. I want to ask you really what is now the $64,000 question. So please hang on, Ronnie. Trump, Xi are now locked in a battle of wills. The trade war with China is on. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. China and the United States are now in a full-scale economic and trade war. The United States last night, in response to China's predatory retaliatory tariffs, slapped 104% in total tariff on all Chinese goods. China now says they will not back down. Xi has come out and vowed he will fight this to the bitter end. No surrender, no retreat. So someone's going to have to blink. The question now is who? 617-266-6868. Let's go right back to Ronnie in Boston. Ronnie, I thought you made an amazing point. After announcing Liberation Day and this economic renaissance in manufacturing and investment, and how all of these jobs were going to start coming back to the United States, how can Trump now give up or implement a pause or backtrack 6-7 days in with Wall Street panic and media pressure bearing down on him? He's got to see this thing through. You're right. He's got no choice. Plus, it's the right thing to do. Ronnie, my question now to you is this. China has become, in many ways, the outlet store for so many Americans. I don't care what it is, whether it's sneakers, whether it's a flat screen TV, whether it's our iPhones, you name the product. Everything is made in China. You put 104% tariff on those goods, those duties on those goods coming in. It is going to raise prices across the board here in the United States, at least in the short term. Can the American people handle short-term economic pain to defeat China in this trade war? In the end, who's got who by the tonsils? Is it Xi or is it Trump?
It is definitely Trump holding all the cards, and I'll tell you why. Because number one, outlets like Amazon is basically a Chinese goods app, Jeff. I mean, practically everything on Amazon is made in China. And you don't think that Amazon, with all of their influence, isn't going to put incredible pressure on China to back down from this? I mean, are you kidding me? Of course they are. And China says it'll retaliate with what? They're going to retaliate with what? Our goods, aren't a big presence in China. Made in America isn't something that Chinese people see on anything in China. That market is essentially closed to us. So, there's no leverage on his part. And look at what's happened already. Countries have lined up to renegotiate. The market is rebounding. It's all working out exactly as Trump said it would if you just stayed the course and didn't turn into a panic rat. And so I trust the guy, and I don't pretend to be a financial expert. I have a 401k, Jeff, but I don't pretend to be any expert on economics. But I do know, that we're the number one market in the world and that we've been rated for decades. And I know that this recalibration of trade is the single best thing to happen to the American business owner, the American worker, and the American taxpayer in decades. We're going to have so much money pouring in that all the concerns about the insolvency of Social Security and Medicare, that's all going to get wiped away. It's all going to get wiped away. We're going to see a boom like we've never seen, and the markets are already coming back to prove it. And these countries know the writing is on the wall, and because they know Trump will not back down, they're lining up to get the best deal they can in this new global reckoning that Trump has brought about. He's moved the entire world, Jeff.
Ronnie, drop the mic. Thank you very much for that call. He's reordering global trade in front of our eyes. And he's done something that people thought was in the impossible. He's reordering global trade and the global economy, and especially here in America, to favor the American worker, the American middle class, American business, small business owners, American manufacturing, American interests. It's honestly, they said it couldn't be done. He's doing it. Larry in Leominster. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. You
Larry.
Are right. Yes, sir. Hi.
Go ahead, my friend. Go ahead, Larry.
So, yeah, it does seem like everything that is made on the face of the earth comes from China. Well, except for babies. Those come from China, but that's another story. So I back this 100%, just like you. People seem to forget how this happened to us. You touched on it earlier. This was Bill Clinton. This was a bunch of rhino, neocon Republicans. They all swore to us, like hand to heart, that if we gave China most favored nation status, if we did these trade deals, they would become democratized, their middle class would thrive, slavery would end, and all that stuff. And it's only gotten worse.
Oh, you're dead on. See, that's what I find incredible, Larry. And you tell me if you agree or not on this, the very same media elites, and I'm going to call them out, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, the New York Times, this is CNN, MSNBC, frankly, most of Fox News. I'm like 95% to Fox, with the rare exception here or there. So I can go across the board. Wall Street, the Bushes, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the Kerrys, the Obamas, the Bidens, the Clintons. I can go right across the board. Republicans and Democrats, the establishment. Who gave us the Iraq War? They did. Who gave us the 20-year war and then eventually the disaster that turned out in Afghanistan? They did. Who was the one that told us most favored nation trade status for China? It's the key. It'll bring China into the world order, the international trading system. It's going to civilize China. It'll democratize China. As you put it, China's get wealthy. They'll have a middle class. The middle class will demand democracy. They were wrong about China. In fact, they unleashed a military monster, an economic military monster that now threatens, forget their neighbors, forget Asia. You've got now that they're buying up ports, seaways, minerals, property, land in America, across Latin America, in Africa, in Europe. I mean, they've created this successor to the Soviet Union. That's what China really now has become, a successor to the Soviet Union. And we prop them up. So the very same elites that were wrong about Iraq, that were wrong about Afghanistan, that were wrong about NAFTA, that were wrong about China, that were wrong about COVID, that were wrong about the Russia collusion hoax, that have been wrong, going back the last 30 years. Suddenly now we're supposed to believe them that Trump's tariff war is going to be this disaster? When we know they're the ones who are profiting and benefiting from this? Because I can tell you this, Larry. Trade with China has put a lot of money in the pockets of a lot of politicians. A lot of politicians. And it's put a lot of money into big media conglomerates. The New York Times is a mouthpiece for Beijing. The Wall Street Journal is a mouthpiece for Beijing. CNN is a mouthpiece for Beijing. So they've infiltrated our universities. They've infiltrated Congress. They owned Joe Biden. They owned him like a $10 streetwalker, him and his entire family. So I'm looking at them and I'm saying, look at the influence, the infiltration. And here, big story, front page Wall Street Journal. Front page, today's Wall Street Journal. Wall Street billionaires are now fuming, saying he's not listening to us. We're telling him we don't want this trade war, and we don't want this trade war with China in particular. He won't listen. He won't take our calls. He doesn't care that we're upset. He doesn't care that we're angry. He doesn't care that we tried to tank the stock market last week and a little bit yesterday to punish him. He won't listen. We don't own him. We can't control them. Yet these are the very same people. I'm talking about the media now, the fake news media, and the Democrats and the libs. He's owned by the oligarchs. He's owned by the rich. He's a puppet of the rich. Really? So tell me, if he's a puppet of the rich, why does Wall Street want to hang him? I mean, he's the most hated guy on Wall Street right now. Trump is. The globalist elites want to shoot him. The rich can't stand him. Because for the first time since Ronald Reagan, we have a president now who's going to put working people, the working middle class, America first. And they're losing their minds. Here, Larry, I want to get your reaction. Don't take my word for it. This is deliberate. Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He was speaking at the National Republican Campaign Committee. And he wasn't just speaking to the audience. He was speaking to Wall Street. He was speaking to the wealthy globalist elites. He was speaking to the entire establishment, Republican and Democrat. He goes, I want you guys to know, there's a new sheriff in town. You want to know what my tariffs are about? Here's what my tariffs are about. Suck on this. Roll cut 1. Mike.
I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us.
I love you.
They cheated with tariffs on us.
I love you.
They stole our money. They stole our jobs.
I love you. I've been saying this for 30 freaking years. Everything that he said it's the Lord's truth. Larry, indulge me. Let me play one more. So, everybody said it's a horrible idea. Everybody said, oh, it'll lead to a Great Depression. Oh my God, the mother of all stock market crashes. Oh my God, the sky is going to fall. You don't impose tariffs. You don't do this. You don't stand up to the globalists. You don't stand up to Wall Street. You don't defend Main Street. What the hell? Hey, we've been calling the shots for 30 years now. Who do you think you are? Now, 70 countries and counting. And I don't mean not to insult Mozambique. Okay, I'm not talking about Mozambique or Liechtenstein. Okay, I'm not talking about very small. The entire European Union, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan, Australia, one after another. They're all lining up. His phone is it's ringing off the hook. Can we meet, Donald? We want to fly delegation in. Donald, you misunderstand our tariffs. No, Donald, okay, let's forget about the last 25 years and how much we've ripped you off. Donald, let's make a deal. Listen now to Trump. Roll cut 2, Mike.
I think we're going to do much better than that this time, because this time I'm doing what I want to do with respect to the tariffs. I think we're going to do much better. And just remember the numbers. When you get up to $2 billion a day, $2 billion a day, they're saying, sir, can't be that, can it? I said, yeah, it can. It's the biggest transaction ever made. This is bigger than any deal. You guys, some of you work for companies. Your companies are peanuts. I don't care how big they are. This is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
He's completely right. There's talk now among Republicans and Democrats to strip Trump's authority to negotiate tariffs. They want these crooks in Congress, the same ones that have sold us out for 30 years, the idiots that gave us NAFTA, the idiots that gave us the World Trade Organization, the idiots that gave us China and most preferred nation status. Okay? These idiots, they say, no, we should be in the driver's seat again. Oh, so you could sell us out one more time? Larry, my question to you, and I'm playing devil's advocate because I'm with him 1,000, not 100, 1,000%, to the gates of hell and back on this one, okay? Because I think it's that important for the world and for our country. Many people do buy Chinese goods. It's a fact. Especially in this country. Many people have gotten addicted to cheap goods from China. Their prices are going to go up. It's going to be short-term pain. There's no question. Is Trump going to face a political revolt at home because he's now willing to go toe-to-toe with China? Do you fear that many Americans will turn on China once they start going to Walmart and they see their iPhones going up, they see their video games going up, they see their everything that they buy, everything starts to go up. The sneakers are going up, the underwear is going up, everything, electronics is going up, their alarm clocks are going to go up. Everything is going to go up when they go to Walmart. Is Trump risking political collapse at home in this trade war with China? Are you nervous? Are you anxious, Larry?
Jeff, you give me so much to talk about. Oh, my God, throwing it all at me. Okay, really quick. I think you meant mad at Trump, not China, in that last statement, but that's fine. Why do they call it an October surprise, Jeff?
Because it happens just before the election.
Why is that important?
Because it influences the late people who are voting.
So why don't they do it in August?
Interesting.
You see where I'm going with this?
Interesting.
He's doing it now, right at the beginning, so he can take all the arrows, and then by the time the midterms roll around, we're not going to be dealing with this in 2 years or 18 months, however you want to couch it. That's all well and good. He's doing a great job on articulating why he's doing this. We, as Kuhner country, as MAGA country, need to get on board with this. Simple ways. You had mentioned all the fat cats in Washington getting rich, all the crooks that want to take this back over. I would refer people to Peter Schweitzer's book, Hidden Empires. It explains everything about how much the politicians got rich kowtowing to China at the expense of us. People will say, oh my God, you're going to be paying so much more. My counter for that is, oh, so you approve of slave labor so you can have cheap stuff, because that's all it is in China is slave labor. Just admit that you approve of slave labor so you can get your sneakers cheap. Like I said before, QC time's over. You have to play hardball with these people. They were mocking Trump for picking a couple countries that only have penguins. Well, that's great. The reason why they're doing that is because people are using that country as a stepping point to get their tariffs.
That's right.
And we can't let them, write the narrative. You have to be able to counter. And that's the key to this. Like I said, this is not going to last for 2 years. It can't. China, economically, is a paper tiger. It's all a facade. They have invested in so much crappy real estate in their own country. They have an accounting, but they don't have the same, what am I trying to say, where we know how much money is being printed. They're flooding their own country with fake printed money, kind of like our quantitative easing, but they don't tell their people what they're doing. They lie. And so we're in a much, even though we're at 34, 35 trillion in debt, we're in a far better position to handle these blows than China ever is. They're on the brink of economic disaster.
Oh, I agree. Larry, again, brilliant analysis. I agree. Their economy is very brittle. They had a property market crisis. They've got young people now. Listen to this. Young people in China, 25% unemployment. Their economy is in big trouble, and the only thing they have are these exports, the free access or the unrestricted access to our market. You cut off that access, the Chinese economy is going to crater. And remember, the Chinese Communist Party made a deal, a pact, going back decades, saying you'll accept our totalitarian rule. We will be your dictator. We will be your overlord. We will control your life. But in exchange, we're going to give you much better living standards, much better, higher standard of living. You're all going to start getting more and more wealthy. Now, if the economy tanks because of this trade war, and I'm telling you, it will tank for China, you're going to see a massive, massive political backlash. Xi Jinping is going to fall, and the Chinese Communist Party itself may fall. And that's why I'm saying Trump may bring down communist China the way Reagan brought down the Soviet Union without firing a shot. Xi Jinping made the biggest mistake of his entire life. And already the communist Chinese around him at the leadership level, the Politburo, there are talks about overthrowing Xi. The long knives are out because they're asking him, how do we win this? Because you're right, Larry. They have no leverage over us because they've blocked us out of their market. So what are you going to, you can put 1,000,000% tariff. Nobody buys any American goods in China. So all that matters is with this 104% tariff, nobody's going to buy Chinese goods because now they're going to be too expensive. So who's China going to sell to? India? They don't want Chinese goods. Vietnam? They don't want Chinese goods. South Korea? Taiwan? You see, they've alienated all of their neighbors. They have no friends in the region anymore. No one can bail the Chinese out. Trump can bury China. to Donald. Go for it. 7:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, my friends, as you know, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. 7:20, truth or troll. Listen now to Harry Anton on CNN about Trump's soaring poll numbers. Take it away, Sandy.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
So today's Truth or Troll is not President Trump. It's actually, as you mentioned before, CNN data analyst Harry Anton. And it's a little weird because don't forget, I want to repeat it, that's CNN and Harry Anton. And he's saying that President Trump is doing really, really well.
I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s. The bottom line is whether you like Trump or you don't like him, you can't say that he's come in and not try to deliver on what he at least believes was his promises on the campaign trail, and he's doing so in historic fashion.
Wow. Now, I'm suspicious because it's CNN. Does he mean it? Or is he setting up President Trump for a fall? Is this truth or is it troll?
Interesting, Sandy. Interesting. Look, according to CNN, they're saying Trump's approval numbers have never been higher. Literally, they've never been higher. Even with the trade war, even with the stock market now taking out, it was a beating, a bloodbath over the last couple of days. Trump's approval numbers are actually going up by 4 percentage points. So let me ask you, is this truth or are they trolling? In other words, are they trying to artificially inflate Trump, make it seem like, oh my God, he's a soaring eagle, and then anticipating or hoping that his numbers are going to crater by artificially uplifting him and then setting him up now for a fall? Or do you think they really do believe that this guy is soaring in the polls? A, truth. B, troll. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there. And again, I was active last night at the Kuhner Report. KUHN is in national ER. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff.
Hi, Dan.
I think what we're watching here is Trump taking down globalism single-handedly. What they've been doing, and what our former politicians have been doing for decades, is basically selling our economy out. They've allowed all of these tariffs to begin. They turn their back on them. These tariffs are taxes onto us. They've basically been feeding off our prosperity for years. And now we've got a champion. We've got somebody that's looking out for us, that's going to take care of these tariffs. We're going to have an equal playing field. We're not going to have an economic imbalance like it's been going on for decades. We were in a situation where we were going to fail. Something drastically needed to be done. I am so proud of him. I'm not filled with anxiety a bit. I'm happier than hell that he's doing this. This is what's been needed. This is what's necessary. Yes, we're going to have a little bit of pain because, let's face it, there's been a lot more pain by them parasites been sucking on our backs for years, and our country's allowed it. The Congress, a lot of these people with no balls have allowed this to happen. And we've not only does Trump have a steal stainless steel spine. He's got brass balls, and he's taken this country back. And he's allowed our country to flourish once again and be the lead dog on the block. The only thing I worry about is a conflict with Iran that China gets into because it's got no economic way to turn, and a potential problem with Russia because they're not easing up. But other than that fact, all I can say is that we're making the absolutely right move, and I am very pleased and I'm happy. And we just need to watch those three that I just mentioned to make sure that, we keep them in place. So I'm telling you right now, Jeff, this is the best thing that's ever happened to this country. We're taking the parasites off of our purse, and we are going to be the financial giant that we've always been, but now we're unbridled.
Oh, I love it. I completely agree with you. I think you're now looking at America unbridled. The American eagle really is soaring now. And again, look, I don't want to count my chickens before they're hatched. Every deal has to be renegotiated. We're going to see what happens with China. But look, if Trump holds the line, and I believe he will, the Chinese are going to have to make a decision very soon. Do they fight this thing to the end, knowing they're going to go down in flames, and the massive economic implications at home, which could threaten the very viability and survival of the regime? Or, and this is what I suspect, are members in the Politburo going to blame Xi Jinping, basically saying, no, you took us into an economic trade war with America. You guaranteed us victory. You didn't deliver. And they basically overthrow him from the presidency. Essentially a political coup. But the Chinese Communist Party stays in power. So they may have to cut Xi loose. I mean, we'll see how things play out. But if they don't, and they hitch their wagon to Xi Jinping, and they say they're going to go all the way in this trade war, this could be the end of communist China. Not China, but the regime. Okay, more, I promise, next. All right, the Kuhner Man feeling very good today, my friends. I've been waiting for this for a long time. 617-266-6868 is the number. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. All right, 7:34 now on the great WRKO. Just to show you how addicted we are as a country to these cheap goods made in China. Most of it, again, slave labor, but let that go. This is, I want to read this message that Brian sent me on Messenger. Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, a Republican. He's one of my favorite Republicans because he's just so witty and he's so funny. Well, here is what Brian messaged me about what Senator Kennedy apparently said last night. Jeff, Senator Kennedy came up with a line last night that made Ted Cruz double over laughing. Kennedy said, everyone knows that God made the universe in 7 days, and China has made everything else. I gotta say, that is very funny. But that's, basically it's true. I mean, really, it doesn't matter where you go. I mean, I've been talking about Walmart, but it doesn't matter. You go to Target, right? Go to Target. Every second thing is made in China. Vacuum cleaners, toasters, pajamas, as I said, underwear, lamps, alarm clocks. It doesn't matter. Everything's made in freaking China. Now, it's cheap. There's no question it's cheap, but it's garbage quality. That's the other thing. It's not like you're buying real craftsmanship here. So, and I gotta ask all of you this, okay? Because this is my concern. And again, I am supporting Trump 1,000,000%, 1,000%. But I said this to Grace yesterday over dinner. When the stock market began to hurt, to really take a beating, the hemorrhage, as it did on Thursday, Friday, kind of rebounded a little bit early this week. But again, the markets are jittery. For the first time in the entire Trump era, and that means I'm going back all the way to about 2015, 2016 with this great audience. For the first time, I saw a significant crack in the base of support that this audience has for Trump. Not that they're abandoning Trump, not that some of you are abandoning him, but how would I say this? About, let's say, let's say you take 10 texts or 10 emails or 10 messages, 7 back Trump, 3 say they're nervous. My wife, Grace, is going to be on at 9 o'clock. She's very nervous. She doesn't like these tariffs. She doesn't like the sequencing of these tariffs. She hates to see the stock market start to crater a little bit like this. She doesn't like the instability. She feels it's hurting business confidence. It's going to hurt the economy. It's not what she says she voted for with Trump. And you're going to hear all her reasons. But I started to notice about maybe a third of the audience, for the first time, text me, email me, whatever, saying, Jeff, maybe Trump should do a 30-day pause. Jeff, this is getting me nervous. My 401k is going down bad. I've got money tied up in the stock market. This is not good. I'm afraid this could trigger a recession. This is a big trade war. He's biting off more than he can chew. He should hang on maybe for 60 days or 90 days and renegotiate, take a temporary pause. Well, that's a good point, Sandy. Do they want to pause the border too? Excellent point. Excellent point. But for the first time, I'm like, geez, I'm starting to see cracks. I'm starting to see jitters. I'm starting to see some anger, some nervousness, some uncertainty and insecurity. So, and the big reason is many are saying, Jeff, groceries are still too high. Gas is still too high. My monthly bills, everything is still too expensive. I can't absorb another hit in terms of rising prices. What I elected Trump to do, this is the argument, I want to get your take. I elected Trump to lower prices, not to raise prices. And you can make fun of us for going to Walmart or whatever, but I shop at Walmart because I got to feed my family. And so if prices start to go up across the board with these tariffs, many of us, our backs are already against the wall. And this could tip us over. So my question is simply this. Are you nervous about a trade war with China? Are you worried that this could lead to rising costs at home and that the prices of many things will go up? And that for people living check to check, hand to mouth, struggling to survive, especially after the hard Biden years, are you against this tariff war? Or would you rather, let's put it this way, that Trump waited, had the economy boom, pass his tax cuts, pass deregulation, make us truly energy dominant, really get the economy kicking into high gear, start driving these prices down, and then if he wants to go with these tariffs, do it. But that it's too early, too much, too fast. That's what some of you in Kuhner country are saying. I want to get your reaction. Agree, disagree. What say you? Lori in Waltham. Thanks for holding, Lori, and welcome.
Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Lori.
I don't know if you're going to like talking to me. I am a licensed customs broker and have been in international trade for over 40 years.
Okay.
It's not good. I live the tariff. I will tell you that no country has a flat tariff. We all have a harmonized tariff book. The first six digits of the tariff are universal for almost every country in the world. Tariffs are based on commodity. Yes, some commodities are higher than others, but they're not 104%. They're not. Some are coming here as 32%. Shoes come in at 32%. It's not on everything, and it's not done that way. I lived the years prior to China actually becoming on board. I watched Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong all do the same thing. You know, I truly believe this is our own all of ours. We wanted the cheap products. It's not the government saying that they want to go out and source it elsewhere. It's us. We did it cheaply. I'm going to tell you, I worked for a major retailer for many, many years. Those tariffs, which are still in effect from the last time that Trump was in office, were astronomical. 25% already, Jeff, on most things. List 1, 2, and 3. I know my stuff. On to it. The rest of this, we're going to pay a fortune. People do not realize how much this is going to impact them. 104%. A table, which was on list 3, already comes on at 25%. An additional 20%. He's now adding 104% onto that. We can't afford this. This is going to, you think about it, it's going to collapse their economy. It's going to hurt us major. This is a trickling down effect, Jeff. When companies can't bring in stuff, we don't have stuff to sell. People are going to get laid off. It's going to trickle down. Businesses are going to shut down. This is my fear. I'm like your wife. I just heard you speak of your wife. Yes, my 401k, I've lost $12,000 in 3 days. That's a lot for me. I'm not a rich person. I guess.
Lori, can you do me a favor? I'm so happy that you called, because what you're expressing, almost word for word, is what about a third to, I would say, almost 40% of the audience is thinking. So you're speaking for many people in Kuhner country. I want to continue with you. Hang on. 750 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to Lori in Waltham. She is speaking for many of you in this audience, MAGA, Trump supporters, Trump voters. Look, I mean, I don't have a scientific way of evaluating this, but I'm just judging by the texts and the emails and the messages that I'm getting on Messenger. Not a majority, but certainly a significant minority, 35-40% at least, who are, in Lori's camp. And you're going to hear my wife, she's in Lori's camp as well, saying, look, I don't like these tariffs. Too much, too fast. It's going to lead to higher inflation, at least in the short term. Everything is going to go up. It's going to go up high. We've suffered a lot under Joe Biden already, and we didn't vote for this. We didn't vote for this kind of economic pain as we transition to these tariffs and to this this sort of economic independence that Trump wants to put America on. Lori, did I sum up your position accurately?
Pretty much. I'm also, I wrote down a few things because I also wanted to bring them up. First of all, when they pay duties in every country, or you're going to call it tariff or duties, those charges are for their countries. We're not getting billed back for those charges. We don't pay their duties. Their own people pay their duties. So that's definitely an issue that we don't understand. And yes, as I said before, there is an economic difference, but we don't have the product. They do. And yes, you're right. We get it so cheap. So that is why we are buying it so much. And it's, as I said before, it is all our fault. Another thing, I'm not against them bringing the businesses back here, but we also have to understand the amount of time it's going to take to do that. I've seen people talk about 3 to 6 years to start bringing some good manufacturing back here. What are we going to do until then? The unemployment, we're not going to bring in products because they're going to be so expensive. We cannot let our economy collapse like this. We have to be smart. I just really wish he thought through some of the things that he's doing, because they're going to cause major problems. I listen a lot. I listen to all radio stations, Jeff. My partner is like you. He's he's a very big Trump fan, and I respectfully live together with him. But stuff like this, when it comes to tariffs and things, this is what I know. Lumber and steel are going to be a bloody fortune for us to bring in. When these companies stop building, it's going to cost them a fortune to build manufacturing in here. We don't have the infrastructure from here. What are we going to do? You can't just snap your fingers and create these things and expect that it's done. People are going to suffer. There is no doubt. I don't understand his philosophy. You've got to take care of your people and at least be smart about what you do.
Lori, let me play a cut from Trump himself, and I want you to react to it, okay? Because this is, in some ways, this is Trump's answer. He says the tariffs, and I want you to hear him and then give your reaction. He says the tariffs are already working. He's barely put them on. He's barely imposed them. He's got 70 countries lining up. They're all looking to renegotiate. They want to lower their tariffs substantially. That'll boost American exports. They want to buy more American, which is going to create, he says, more jobs, more wealth, bring more investment into the United States. Listen now to Trump. This is him a couple days ago with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel. He's asked by the media, are you worried that this tariff war will lead to higher prices and maybe even lead to a recession? Listen to what Trump said. Roll cut 12, Mike.
It'll be very interesting. It's the only chance our country will have to reset the table, because no other president would be willing to do what I'm doing or to even go through it. Now, I don't mind going through it because I see a beautiful picture at the end. But we are making tremendous progress with a lot of countries, and the countries that really took advantage of us are now saying, please negotiate. You know why? Because they're getting beaten badly because of what's happening. They're getting beaten badly. They're being devalued as countries.
So, Lori, his argument is, yes, I hear you. In the short term, yes, it will be a shock. You will see prices go up, no question. But they're going to renegotiate. They're already renegotiating. And that's going to mean more jobs, more investment, more growth, more companies coming, more investment coming into the United States. What say you?
Okay, first of all, the countries that usually have the highest duty are the poorest countries. And that's probably who is coming to him, and I'm sure they are. Can companies say, and again, tariffs aren't set. They're not 25%. They're commodity based. So this whole thing with, I'm going to hit you with 25%, this is all on our president. This is not that all of a sudden these things just happened. This is being caused by that. I do believe that those countries that we at one time had free trade agreements with, we'll talk about many of the African countries that, all those very poor countries that have nothing that we used to get in free trade that they're now charging everybody is getting charged a surcharge. But people don't want I don't know how else to say, you can't turn things around that quickly without causing turmoil. It's going to cause turmoil. We don't have the products that people want overseas, Jeff. Maybe, and I'm not saying that this shouldn't be done. I just think it needed to be done in a smarter way. You don't have to bully the world to get what you need and to get it more on an even playing field. I'm going to say one more thing. NAFTA. NAFTA was a free trade agreement between Canada and Mexico and the United States, around since the 1930s. Trump came in 2016, renegotiated NAFTA, which is now called the USMCA, MLCA. It's negotiated. He did it 6-7 years ago when he was in office prior. He comes in this time. He doesn't like it. Blah, blah, blah. It's garbage. He's the one that negotiated it. I just don't get it. He's saying to us, they're hurting our economy because they're charging the high tariffs. That's not true. As I said, their people are paying their tariffs. We're not paying their additional tariffs. They are.
Lori, you said something to me earlier that this began with China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, going back even to the 1970s, even before NAFTA. You said Americans want cheap products, cheap consumer goods, and that in the end, don't blame governments. You have to blame the American people. I'm just curious, do you think we made a big mistake as a country 40, 50 years ago by saying, forget made in the USA, even if it means you pay a little more. Everything is made in America, American jobs, American factories, American manufacturing. Go for the cheapest product you can, even if it means buying from other countries, even if that means you're going to lose jobs here, outsource some of our companies and our manufacturing. Do you think the people of America made a mistake with buy cheap?
They may have. They may have. But we can certainly bring it back, but I'm not saying this is the way. I'm too old to run for office, but I truly think, you know what, it just needs to be done in a smart way, Jeff. I'm not saying the man's ideas aren't always smarter or not a bad idea. It's just the way he implements them and causes. We don't need the world in chaos right now. He doesn't need to be on the TV 24/7. Just do a good job. Do your job. Make it safe for people. Stop making people afraid, because there's a lot of people out there that are pretty scared right now, and me being one of them. And I worked in the business for most of my life.
Lori, you know, my wife would love to have you over for dinner. Let me just, because you and her are so simpatico on this issue, she would love to have you for dinner with some of her Italian pasta and have the two of you gang up on me. Lori, thank you very much for that call. I really, really appreciate it. Sandy's in my ear saying he's on TV because people need to know what he's doing, and the media keeps lying about him. That's why the poor guy's always got to be on TV. Look, just very, very quick. I'm happy Lori got a chance to express herself, because she is saying what a lot of you, again, I think it's 35-40% of the audience, but a good substantial number of you are saying about Trump. It's not even that you're against the tariffs. You don't like the way he's doing it. You don't like the sequencing. You wish he would have planned this out over a longer period, phase it in, go slower, do it more on a country-by-country basis instead of taking on basically the whole world at the same time. So that's why I'm happy that Lori called. Just very quickly, though, on the USMCA, this is a very important point. The reason why people are saying this, well, he renegotiated NAFTA, so what's his problem? This is his deal. So, what, are you going to complain about your own deal now, 6-7 years later? There was one problem they didn't foresee, and this has been Trump's argument, that after they renegotiated the NAFTA deal, the US and now the USMCA, China took advantage of a loophole that was not intended in the agreement, in which they could backdoor their products and their goods into our market, into our country. Remember, Trump put a tariff on China, and it was so effective. Remember, we had a trade war with China in his first term, that Biden kept the tariff on because it was helping American manufacturing. It was bringing back jobs and also, frankly, revenue. And so Biden kept the tariff. That was the one thing he didn't do against China, was rescind that tariff. So the Chinese said, let's get around Trump's tariff. How? We're going to build companies in Canada and Mexico. Chinese company, Chinese owner, Chinese goods, Chinese products. And then from Canada and Mexico, we're going to use those as back doors to flood the American market with our cheap products, because Canada and Mexico, basically no tariff. So they were China was abusing the USMCA, and Canada and Mexico were allowing China to abuse the USMCA. That's why Trump has turned around and said, no, 25% on Canada and Mexico. And he says, no, I'm not going to let China come in through the back door. So if China's going to build plants in Canada, and by the way, all those plants now have shut down in Canada and Mexico. The Chinese are not even bothering to make the goods anymore. They've shut those factories down in those two countries because now they can't backdoor it into the United States. Now it's 25% from the southern border, 25% from the northern border, blank you. That's why now the Chinese are panicking. Trump has shut them out of the American market. 617. Agree, disagree? I'm just giving you the strategy. 617-266-6868. Okay. Lori says she's worried. She's concerned. Prices are going to go up. Everything is going to go up. And we need this now like we need a hole in the head. Agree or disagree? Are you concerned? Finch in Oregon. Thanks for holding, Finch, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I am just so hyped to be talking to you. I first have to shout out, because I said it, to a group of young men in the group. It's called Wall Street Bet, and we are all for Trump. %. I also want to mention your father. Rest in peace. I was so locked in with Trump from your message with your father, and I get very emotional thinking about that, because I didn't have a father, and it's not that Trump is our father, but he is destined. God, he survived more than one attempt, and I just want to, mention that, and then jump to what's, relevant now. I believe that Trump is playing 4D chess. He has this plan, lock, stock, and barrel. He has this plan for the United States, and we will thank him short order for all of his executive orders. Because, again, this is given to us through our faith in God. Trump. When I mention that name, there's chills through my bones. Trump is...
No, I get what you're saying, Finch, and I kind of feel in many ways, emotionally, very much what you're expressing. And I think many, frankly, in the country are as well. Trump is metamorphosing in front of our eyes, even from his first term, where in his first term, he was more of a political outsider, a political maverick. I'm not saying this as a criticism. I'm just literally as a description. He was an outsider. He was a maverick, in many ways a political newcomer, a bit of a brawler, a disruptor, a change agent, which is what we needed. But this Trump is a bit of a different Trump. And you can see that the two assassination attempts, I think the one in Butler in particular, has profoundly transformed him. Everybody near him, his wife has said it, his children have said it, his closest advisors have said it, Susie Wiles said it. She goes, he's a different man. She said, a better man, actually. And she says, I think a better leader. Now, not that he was bad. She said, I thought he was a great president the first term. But he's changed, and I think even for the better in his second term. He's wiser. He's more sober, and I mean sober not in terms of drinking. I mean in terms of his judgment. He's very steady. He's almost becoming like a grandfather or a patriarch to the country. A 21st century version of George Washington. And look, let me just very quickly. This was, it was a couple days ago. I can't, it's all blurring in my mind, but we were talking about the tariffs. We had a really good show, and I'm at Jersey Mike's getting myself a sandwich and one for Grace on my way home, to have lunch with her after the show. And I run into a friend of mine who's also a big fan of the show, listens to the show all the time. And so I asked him, he saw me at Jersey Mike's, like, hey, Jeff, and hey. So I shook his hand. How are you? I asked him how his wife and his little boy is doing. And I said, hey, what do you think of these tariffs? And he said, I agree with you. We've got to do this. We've got to do this, even though it's going to be short-term pain. And he said, look, Jeff, I'm not just thinking about me. I'm thinking about my 5-year-old son. What kind of a future is he going to have? We can't keep outsourcing trillions and trillions of dollars of our wealth to China and countries all over the world. It's not sustainable. We can't have a $37 trillion national debt. We can't have constant record high trade deficits. We can't be sending out our jobs, our manufacturing, our factories, our industry to the whole world. We don't make anything anymore. It's a house of cards. It's unsustainable. That's what he said. The whole thing is going to collapse. So he goes, it's almost like we have no choice. And so the way he talked about it was just funny. It was like, I'm not just thinking of myself. I'm literally thinking of my 5-year-old boy. And I said, I'm thinking about my 50. Honestly, that's why I'm so, if you notice, so enthusiastic and so pumped up about this. Because I'm looking at Ashton 15. I'm looking at Ava 12. I'm like, there's going to be no future for them. I'm telling you, if we don't turn things around, there will be no future for our children and grandchildren. And he was the one said to me, I go, are you noticing that some of your Trump supporting friends are kind of nervous and jittery? Because I'm starting to see this on the text machine and the emails. I go, I haven't seen that before, ever. They're always with Trump through thick and thin, no matter what. The media's hammering him. They stand by him. Russia collusion, they stood by him. The stolen election, they stood by him. January 6th, they stood by him. But on this one, not that they've turned on him, but they're it's like what you heard from Lori. Very uneasy, very nervous. They think maybe he got ahead of his skis on this one. He said, it's funny you should mention that, Jeff. A lot of my friends, Trump supporters, they're like, I don't know about these tariffs. My 401k, it's tanking. I don't know. I think maybe Trump's fighting too many countries at once. Maybe he should have, phased this thing out a little bit, spread it out over the long run. But the larger point is this. The way he spoke about Trump is the way I speak about Trump. He's in it for the long haul. He's not thinking about the next quarter. He's not thinking about the stock market this week or next week. He's not talking about earnings. He's literally thinking, I'm going to position the country for the 21st century. The way a patriarch, a grandfather of a family, says there are changes coming we need to make to save the family, to save the family farm, to give my children and especially my grandchildren opportunities and hope for the future. And that's what I'm sensing. His tariffs, his economic nationalism, his now saying we've got to get rare earth minerals. We can't have China control the future by controlling these rare earth minerals. We've got to go and get them from Greenland or from whatever they may be. We've got to wind down these wars. We've got to secure our border. We've got to deport all of these illegals. We have to get our independence back as a country. If not, our country is finished. And so I agree with you, Finch. There is something now about President Trump that I believe has the mark of destiny. And again, you may disagree with me. If he wins this massive trade economic war with China, hey, it's breaking right now. China has just imposed an 84% retaliatory tariff on top of Trump's 104%. So, this is it now. This is an economic fight to the death. If Trump can break China, my God, he will have changed the world forever. RKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to read this text. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, and it is on fire. Man, is a text line. Everybody's weighing in today. You can text us 70470, and this is from 617. It really sums up, I think, brilliantly, my thinking on this issue. And it's not Grace's thinking, and you're going to hear from her in 40 minutes. And it's not what some of you are thinking, but it's clearly what I'm thinking. And anyway, I could not have expressed it better. So here it is. By the way, best audience in the business. Jeff, you always say that. It's true. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, Jeff, the problems we are facing now, economically, are akin to a sick human body. And we are getting confused with symptoms versus the underlying disease. The disease of unchecked globalism beginning with the first Bush administration, i.e. Bush 41, and ramping up with all the rest of the presidencies has delivered us to a place of almost no return. When we try to understand the economy today, think of a long-term drug user whose body is about to collapse from years of abuse, and all he wants is another hit to make him feel better. And with that hit, he might indeed feel better, and then he will die. We are there. The recovery, if possible, is going to be very painful. The only slight disagreement, this is a perfect summation of my position. I would probably add heroin to drug user just for more dramatic effect. You think of a guy strung out on heroin, with a needle sticking out of his arm. But the only other thing is when 617 when he says at the end of this, if possible, I think we're going to do it. I think Trump is going to do it. I think this is, again, last moment, last possible chance. And honestly, that's why I believe Trump was saved in Butler, Pennsylvania. I really, really do. Not just for him, but for his agenda. And if he follows through on this, he's not just going to save the American economy. He's not just going to save the American middle and working class and American manufacturing. He literally now can bring communist China to its knees. To its knees. 617-266-6868. Just my opinion. Paul in Concord. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Jeff, hi.
Hi, Paul.
I just wanted to say you are the new Rush for me. I'm a little older than you. I'm older than Trump. But the answer to Lori is this: that if Trump follows her advice and slows down, he will be buried, because the other side is going to lie and cheat and absolutely betray the exact remedy that's needed to this nation as it is now. I came here and a long time ago, and I'm saying that this president is a blessing for all of us. And so to complain about a few bucks over a kitchen table is ridiculous. We're dealing with exactly the disease that you just mentioned. And this requires a perspective and a knowledge that only Trump has. My dad used to say he didn't trust politicians who had to read off of a paper. If you listen to the oversight hearings today, recently, when Newt Gingrich talked about what's happening now with respect to these district judges, these 667 oligarchs that are going to do their best to slow down all of this remedy. The perspective necessary is the one that Trump has, precisely because of his experience and knowledge, and he doesn't have to read it off of a piece of paper. And so we are very fortunate. And that's the answer to Grace, to Lori, all these people who are nervous Nellies. It is ridiculous to talk about a few pennies over a short period of time. And I'm really happy that you're bringing up the issue, because this is a temptation. It is a temptation to stop, to slow down. And if he does that, he will be buried by the people that lie and cheat, that on the inside and on the outside. There's been so much corruption and payoff that you can't trust politicians, because they will take the payoff. Trump doesn't have to take the payoff. We're very happy to have him in his own stability. So I want to thank you for representing the truth, as does Trump. He speaks the truth.
Oh, you're dead on. Paul, I said to Lori, Grace would love to have you over for dinner. So, because, Grace and I are always discussing and disagreeing on this. I need you at my dinner table, Paul, to have some of my wife's delicious pasta. I could use you. Because, the kids always side with Grace against me. It's always 3-on-1, Paul. Non-stop. I'm just talking about the tariffs on any issue. It's always 3-on-1. Paul, and I use that phrase as well with Grace. You're being a nervous Nelly. which drives her nuts. But I'm like, relax. It's all going to work out. Relax. Paul, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Tariffs built America. George Washington supported tariffs. Abraham Lincoln supported tariffs. We had tariffs for most of our history. So what are we afraid of? Seriously. And other countries have been tariffing us for 30 years. So what? We can't tariff them? They can only tariff us? Liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to ask you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. And it's a tough question, but it's a question now I think we need to ask ourselves in the wake now of the huge news. This is the biggest story in the world, maybe the biggest story of our time. President Trump imposed 104% tariffs on China. China now has retaliated again. This broke maybe half an hour ago with 84% tariffs now. So this is an all-out economic trade war between the two biggest economies, the two greatest economies, strongest economies in the world. Xi Jinping, with this announcement of these 84% tariffs, again addressed the nation of China and said that this is a war China will win, that he is now staking his entire leadership and presidency on defeating Trump and defeating America, that they will not surrender an inch in this tariff war. So it's the Chinese Communist Party, at least Xi Jinping, is going all in now. So the question is, can the United States win a war against communist China? That's the poll question of the day. Can America win a war with China? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN is a national ER. Again, I'm very active on X. You can vote on X as well. My handle, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN is a national ER, at the Kuhner Report. If you're not following me on X, please do, because I'm quite active. Look, here's my answer to the question. The answer is no. If you mean by war, a military war. And it's not because I don't believe in the American military. It's not that I think China has superior troops or better quality soldiers. They don't. It's the fact that China is a massive nuclear power. So, yes, we could destroy them, but they could destroy us. There's only two countries in the world that we cannot win a war with. Again, not because we're weaker, but because we live in the nuclear age. Russia and China. And that's why Reagan said it, Nixon said it, Eisenhower said it. This has been longstanding Republican conservative policy going back decades. We must avoid a hot war, not a cold war, that's fine, but a hot war, meaning a military war with Russia or China at all costs. And they must do the same with us, because humanity itself will not survive. Do I think we have the best military in the world? No question. Do I think we have the best fighting force in the world? No question. Do I think we have the best military technology in the world? No question. No question. But it doesn't matter. Nuclear missiles are nuclear missiles are nuclear missiles. China has enough to blow the world over 100 times. So does Russia, so do we. So if it gets to a hot war, nobody wins. I mean, humanity, the planet itself loses. So yeah, if you're looking at war strictly from a military or nuclear point of view, the answer is no. Nobody can win a nuclear war from the three major powers, nuclear powers. Now, if you're talking about this economic trade war, then the answer is A all the way. Because this is what Beijing, this is their fatal miscalculation. Here, they put a retaliatory tariff, and then they just, 34%. Now they just added another 84%. Well, so I don't do the math. Okay, whatever this is now coming to, 120, 130. Remember, they have an initial 67% tariff. So I don't know, 67 plus 34 plus 84. Okay, whatever that gets you. What is it? 185, whatever it is. Okay, it could be 185% tariff. It could be 1,000% tariff. Honestly, God, it could be 1,000,000% tariff. 185% on nothing is still nothing. They buy so little from us. Who cares? You see, that's the key. We don't need them, but they need us. So here's my response if I'm Trump. Oh, you guys just upped it 84%? No problem. We'll go from 104 to, we'll up it another 84%. It'll go from 104 to 188. I mean, at this point, you're making their goods so freaking expensive, nobody can possibly buy it. Nobody will want to buy it. So if China wants to commit economic suicide, go ahead. To me, this is like a gift from the heavens. Because if their economy craters, and I'm telling you it will, they don't have access to the American market. They're done. They're done. Beijing is done. Then they got really big problems. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is a great message from Eric on Messenger. Jeff, we could wish we could take all the China goods sold in America and just dump them in the Boston Harbor. Out of all that lead. I mean, that's the other thing. The quality of these Chinese goods are so bad. Remember all the toys that had lead in them? I got an alarm clock. I swear to you, okay? I said to Grace, my alarm clock broke. Please, she went with the kids shopping. I said, could you get me an alarm clock? So, of course, they don't look at where it's made. They just buy the cheapest alarm clock. So Ashley comes back, Dad, look, I got you an alarm clock. Of course, made in China. What a piece of garbage. The thing even rattles when you hold it. Anyway, you want to show you how bad it is? I got it a month ago. 2 nights ago, or 2 mornings ago, Monday morning, I set my alarm clock, okay? 2:30 in the morning, as I always do. It doesn't ring. I swear to God, after a month, it doesn't ring. I say, and you're saying, well, no, Jeff, maybe you didn't put the alarm on. No, it was on at 2:30 in the morning, like I do every, Monday to Friday. It's just after a month. It don't work. It's junk. So I'm like playing with it, fiddling with it, shaking it, like, what I mean? Like just rattling it, like, come on. So yesterday morning, I'm waiting. By the way, I always get up at 2:30 no matter what. So that's what saved me. I'm like, your body clock, so I'm like, I get up at 2:27. I'm like, oh, I got 3 more minutes. So I put my head back on the pillow, and then it's like, hasn't 3 minutes gone by? It was like 2:32. I'm like, it's not ringing. It's just this piece of crap. It's not ringing. Anyway, Tuesday it decided to ring. I swear to you, this was my alarm 2:30 in the morning. That's it. It just, after 3, it just stopped beeping. It usually goes on like for about 20, 30 seconds, right? No, 3, that's it. 3. I'm like, that's it? Had I not been awake already, I don't even know if that thing would have woken me up. And it's plugged. It's not you. I have a battery in it, but it's plugged in the wall. Some of you may say, well, Jeff, maybe the battery's weak. No, it's made in China. It's garbage. 50 on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, let's go to, is it Abdil? Abdil? Okay, forgive me. Abdil in Boston. Thanks for holding, Abdil, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Abdil.
I'm telling to everyone, we need to stay the course. This is very urgent. It's going to be painful, but we must stick together until we get to the finish line. No question about it. Whether it's going to be super painful sometimes, but it's necessary. But I want to talk to you also about the deal about the Panama Canal. You know that BlackRock was going to buy it, and somehow the Chinese have found a way to block the deal. So, and this is another, like you say, another log on the fire. As you know, in Peru also they have the new Shanghai port. Who is controlling that port? The Chinese, because the Peruvian authorities missed a fine print where they're actually giving the Chinese that port for 30 years, Jeff. That's why when that deal went through, Trump said it's not good. So this is the situation that we are facing, but we cannot be broken, okay? We must have a very strong will until we get to the finish line.
Abdil, if you don't mind me asking, if it's getting too personal, please tell me. I promise I won't be offended. When you look at your personal budget, and I don't know who runs the budget in your home. In my home, it's my wife, but let that go. But when you look at what you're paying for food, what you're paying for groceries, what you're paying for electricity, gas, utilities, your rent or your mortgage, whatever it is, are prices going down for you? Have things improved under Trump? Or do you find that the prices are still too high?
I believe it's beginning to come down. I saw in eggs, I saw in gasoline. Energy is a big equation, the variable here. So if energy prices come down, then we're going to see more prices coming down. I agree, but it's the way things are. But this is the period of realignment, Jeff, and we must continue on.
Excellent. Abdil, I love that phrase. You're right. That word, realignment. That's what we're seeing, a profound realignment. Abdil, please don't be a stranger, my friend. Call again. Heather in Rockland, thanks for holding. He's completely right, by the way. Completely right. Completely right. And I'm going to talk about this with Dr. Grace in about 7 minutes. But I'm noticing gas is going down. Again, I wish it was lower. Don't get me wrong. But I'm paying about maybe $10 less now to tank up my car since Trump came into office. Eggs, they've gone down a couple bucks. Groceries, starting to come down. Again, still too high, but coming down. The big one are the energy utility costs. That's the backbreaker. And that's Maura Healey. But that's another story. Heather in Rockland. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
Hey, Jeffrey. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm actually on the train going to work, but I think that Trump is doing the right thing, and he definitely needs to stay the course 100%. My mother complained to me yesterday, the stock market's down. I'm like, Mom, stop the process. I've never heard for a while.
Heather, I hate to be rude. Literally, we can't hear you. I mean, all I hear is, and the wheels turning. I was just able to catch a little bit that you agree with Trump. Can you speak louder, Heather? Can you speak up? If you can speak up, I think we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Look, are you right beside the engine by any chance? I mean, because you can almost hear like the wheels squeaking in the background.
Okay.
Are you afraid maybe there could be you're sitting beside a couple of crazy moonbats? You know what I mean? And if they hear you, I support Trump and I think he's doing the right thing. I don't want you to get assaulted on the train. Heather, please call back another time when we can hear you. It's just too much noise in the background. Jeff in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Hi, how you doing? I got a couple of things.
Yes, go ahead.
First thing I wanted to start off with was the oligarchy people. Isn't it funny how they went from Occupy Wall Street to loving Wall Street?
That's a great point.
All right. Now, the second thing, do you think for 1 minute there are other countries like India, Pakistan, these are just the companies I see on products. I run an electrical company, and these are products that have gone from China to Pakistan and India that are not going to be willing to pick up for the short term, offering a 0% even trade policy, fair trade, and pick up the production that China's going to lose. Any one of these countries would love to do that. Trump has this, no problem.
Jeff, that's another great. Peter Navarro, he's his top economist, his trade advisor, who's been advising him on this issue. By the way, Elon hates Peter Navarro. So he disagrees with Trump's tariffs. This is a big rift in the administration. Elon Musk I don't know why he's insulting Navarro. Navarro's never insulted Elon, but Elon is now calling Navarro a moron, saying he's stupid or dumb as a bag of bricks. Elon wants 0% tariffs across the board. He wants 0% with Europe. He wants 0% with Japan. He wants 0% with everybody. And so he doesn't like Navarro, and he's attacking Navarro in public. But let that go, Jeff. That's Navarro's argument. And I agree with Navarro completely. He says, don't worry. India has goods that can easily make up for what China's been selling us. So is Pakistan. So is Brazil. I mean, he names many other countries. By the way, Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, South Korea. That's why the South Koreans are itching to make a deal now. I mean, I believe their delegation is either in Washington or on their way to Washington. So that's Trump's argument. He's saying, look, we're going to get better access to all of these countries' markets because India had like 1,000% tariff. It was insane. He goes, so we're going to renegotiate, and that's over 1 billion people in India. So he's saying we're going to have much bigger access, better access to all these other countries, and whatever China doesn't make, they can replace it. And probably the quality will be even better. Final word to you, Jeff.
My final word is China would have never imposed these reciprocal or counteractive tariffs, let's call them, if the Democrats weren't out there encouraging them and encouraging Trump to back down. It's that simple. Once again, the Democrat Party is nothing more than a domestic terrorist organization at this point and trying to destroy America once again.
Well, Jeff, you're right. What has now been conclusively shown and proven is that the Democratic Party is simply nothing more and nothing less. It is simply a mouthpiece for Communist China. They're owned by Communist China. They're an agent of Communist China, and they're clearly doing the bidding of Communist China. We are now in a full-blown trade war. The Democrats are siding with our mortal enemy, with Communist China. It's the economic trade version of Milley. They're calling them and telling them to continue to fight against us. They're traitors. That's what they are. They're economic Benedict Arnolds. And I believe it's because they're bought and paid for by the Communist Chinese. And honestly, they should be ashamed of themselves. Jeff, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Okay, joining me now, as she always does at this time, Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto, my better half, my wonderful wife. Now, we basically are going to continue now on the air the discussion / debate / disagreement that we've been having at the dinner table now for, at least a couple of weeks now. Grace, how are you?
I am well. You've invited so many people over. I'm already out of food.
Well, look, I mean, they got. I mean, you make your mother's pasta, and your mother made a delicious, incredible pasta. I always said this, so I mean, I want people to eat your great Italian food, sweetheart. I'm going to do something, Grace, that I've never done before. Okay, I want to play two cuts. Please let me play these two cuts, and then I'm going to go straight to you. I promise. And these are the two cuts from Trump. He was with Netanyahu at the White House, and I want you to listen to his argument. He's saying everybody complaining about the tariffs, and it's not you, people like you, that this is too much too fast, that it's going to lead to higher prices, that it's going to be a shock to the economy at a time that we don't need it, where Americans are still suffering from the Biden years and the inflation of the Biden years. He says things are already better. I want to play Trump. Two cuts, and then get your response. Roll cut 13A, Mike.
Now, if you look at what's happening, you got to see this today. I said we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term. Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it. And Brooke Rollins and our team did a great job, and eggs are down now 79%, and they're all over the place. And this was a problem that somebody else would have taken a long time to cure. We have energy is down. We have interest rates are down. We have groceries, meaning food is down. We have everything is down at levels that nobody ever thought possible. Energy looks like it's going to be in the $2.50 a gallon range, and maybe below that for a car, so for gasoline. So we're really doing amazing.
Now, so just to set it up, he says, look, for all of you naysayers out there, for all of you critics, for all of the Grace Wotos of the world, eggs are down, groceries are down, food is down, energy is down, interest rates are down. Gas now is it's at $3 a gallon, it's heading to maybe $2.50 a gallon. So the cost of living is already coming down. Of course, we want it to come down even more, but it's coming down. And then he said this, roll cut 13B, Mike.
Prices got so high, people couldn't live. I mean, the prices for groceries, the prices for standard groceries, standard things were going through the roof. They couldn't live. And now those prices are coming down. So call them groceries, but that's down. Energy's down, and interest rates are down. Everything's down. And the interest rates, the beauty there is when we refinance debt, debt's become such a big factor in this country. We're going to start paying debt off with tariffs and other things. But it's such a big factor because the interest rate's so high. Well, now that's coming way down. So our budget's going to look a lot better because interest costs are way down. And I guess I've done that.
So my question to you is this. Energy's coming down, gas is down, eggs are down, groceries are down, food is down, the market is bouncing back, the tariffs are working, over 70 countries are begging to renegotiate, we're going to get infinitely better deals, more revenue is pouring into the federal treasury coffers because of these tariffs, it's going to help pay down the debt. Winning, winning, winning. So why are you against it?
Well, Jeff, Trump was doing an excellent job, and this is the job that we hired him to do. So this was what he did in his first term, and many of us voted for him to do it again because we had a crazy socialist for 4 years. So he's on the verge of delivering these key promises. But we're far from out of the woods yet. Interest rates are still very high. In 2024, that was the lowest home sales since 1995. And still the housing market is not where it should be. And you know that saying, as goes housing, so goes the economy. Anyways, that's just one metric. We could use many different metrics in the economy to say he was on the verge of pulling a massive boom. And with all the other money that he's bringing in, I I was cheering. He's like the captain of a football team, and now team capitalism is ready to go. In January, in February, you know I'm a businesswoman. My phone was ringing off the hook, everybody excited. And you know what he just did? He just shot himself in the foot, as he always does. Because what he just did is he threw a bucket of cold water on the economy. And now everything has to slow down. Because he did the two things that you never do in business. He created a situation of uncertainty where we don't know what's going to happen next. It could be winning, it could be losing for a short term, we don't know. What does that do? That slows the economy down. And he shook people's confidence. What does that do? That slows the economy down. Even supporters are saying, just a minute, I'm going to wait and see what happens. Whenever you have that approach, I'm going to wait and see, that means people slow their activity down. So we were on team capitalism, and he benched the whole team. He has benched me, and he has benched every single capitalist out there, because now we have to wait and see. And it was completely unnecessary. When I voted for him, I voted for a meat and potato capitalist. That's all I want. Just be a meat and potato guy. And he's got to be a gourmet chef right now. And I don't think that he is representing me. He is not representing Lori, and he is not representing many of people who are texting and emailing you, but they don't want to call you because you're a very ferocious debater. They don't know that I have to do this every night with you, and I don't mind. But maybe they mind.
So now, but Grace, let me get back to your central point. If the economy is getting better, as I just pointed out to you, all the indicators are it's getting better. It's getting infinitely better. Look, I'm paying less when I tank up my car. You're right. Interest rates are still too high, but they are coming down. Groceries, again, still too high, but they're coming down. So if everything is coming down and Trump is now getting people bending the knee, I mean, he's broken the EU. He's broken Japan. He's broken South Korea. He's breaking country after country. Why should he wait? In other words, what? Wait for the Democrats to potentially win the House in the midterms, and then he'll be facing impeachment for the last 2 years of his presidency? In other words, if not now, when?
Well, Jeff, listen, this is a promise that he made, that he was going to bring inflation down on day one. This is how he's supposed to represent me and people like Lori. This was his promise. He never started to say during the election everything that he's saying now. He started, the joint sessions of Congress. It was like, there's going to be some disturbance. Then he wouldn't say whether there's going to be a recession. Then he started to say it's going to be short-term pain. Now you hear some of what he's saying is this could take 2 to 3 years. This is not what we voted for. So this is the key point. We didn't vote for him to go on this injudicious. It was just lacking in judgment to take all the countries on so fast. I wouldn't mind if he was taking on just China and India one at a time. That would be fine. He's trying to take on the whole world all at once, and like I said, you are just benching team capitalism. So you're telling us now, you promised that it would be quick, but now we're going to have to wait, and we don't know how long we're going to have to wait. Moreover, I want to say something else, Jeff. You are all making a huge mistake. What happened last time he went up against China? Do you think that China just retaliates with economic matters or methods? No. Last time they unleashed COVID on the world, leading to millions of deaths. That's what China did to go up against Trump. Do you think that this war with China, they're going to proceed in the manner that Americans do and leave it as just an economic war? We don't know what they're going to do next. They have no regard for human life. And look at what they did in the first term. Trump imposed tariffs on China. China unleashed COVID on the world, on the whole world. So you don't know what's going to happen next. I think Trump is being reckless. And I have to say one more thing. I am sick and tired of hearing everybody in MAGA being dismissive of the other side. There is more than one way to skin a cat. And don't call all of us, we're nervous Nellies, we're not risk takers, we're not patriotic, we're not willing to endure the sacrifice. We're willing to endure all of that. But we have a different approach. Look at somebody like Musk. He's brave. He's a brilliant patriot. He's a brilliant businessman. He's a risk taker. He's not a nervous Nelly, all those names that everybody's calling the other side, but he disagrees with Trump. And in business, Jeff, I'm much more of a risk taker than you. I'm a huge risk taker. You're the one that doesn't want to take business risks. But right now, he's created an environment where it's not really judicious to go forward in some respects.
Wow, you don't have to get personal now. We don't have to start getting under the belt here.
Because
you're the risk taker. I'm not the risk taker. That's what I mean. Like Musk is calling Peter Navarro all these names. Navarro's not calling him names. I never called you names. Okay, well, I do call you a nervous Nelly. I've been saying that. But look, a couple of bad days on the stock market, and you're already ready to surrender to China and surrender to all of the countries in the world. How long can we continue allowing these countries to rip us off? No, really. How long do you want them to continue to fleece us? 6 months? A year? 2 years? 3 years? I mean, how long do you want them to continue to screw us? That's the question. You've got 30 seconds. Go. Risk taker, go.
We voluntarily signed all those agreements as a country over decades. It's gonna take a while to
Got a little glimpse. That's every night at the Casa Kuhner at the house. So now you know what I got to put up with. But think Ashton and Ava siding with mommy and egging her on. And you get a sense of what I deal with. 9:20 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is from my sister, who didn't text the text line. She texted me personally, but included Grace. So it was like a three-way text. Grace, it shows he doesn't pay the bills. You're not a nervous Nelly. So even my family now is taking offense that I'm calling Grace a nervous Nelly. Oh, boy. All right. This is from Larry on Messenger. Jeff, nervous Nellies. I'm sorry. Yes, I think they're panicking. I don't think they're seeing the long game here. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit of short-term pain, but I'm looking at it from Ava and Ashton's perspective. And, I go back to that brilliant text I read earlier. Think of this as a body ravaged by drugs, a heroin addict, a drug addict. And what Grace is essentially arguing for, with all due respect, and all the critics of Trump's tariffs, is take one more hit. Ease off the addiction. Don't detox too quickly. Don't get rid of, don't cut off the addiction too fast. No, it's now or it's never. And honestly, if not now, when? If not Trump, who? 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Brian in Billerica. Thanks for holding, Brian, and welcome.
Jeff. Hey, Jeff, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Always a pleasure to hear you're a lovely wife.
Thank you.
No offense, buddy, but a lot smarter than you. But I think you know that. Look, I have a general comment to make, and I will tell you right from the start that I did vote reluctantly. It wasn't an easy task, but in the end, I pulled the lever for Trump. And here is my biggest problem with everything that is going on. I'm not even going to pretend to say I understand world economics and tariffs, but my biggest problem with the president is he never, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would challenge you to find one clip of him on the campaign trail saying that this was going to involve short-term pain and sacrifice from the American people. And we don't even know how short-term that short-term is going to be. But I wish he had, for guys like me. I'm 63 years old. I was planning on retiring in 2 years with my wife. Jeff, I'm down 22% in my 401k. If I had got honesty from this guy about this, I probably still would have supported him, but I would have been able to make some adjustments in my investments to preserve this debt, what is a devastating loss to my retirement plans. And I'm not a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination, Jeff, right? I'd be happy to tell you even my balance right now, but the guy was not honest with us. Pure and simple. And it reminds me of the early days of COVID when he downplayed it and said things are going to be okay, things are going to be okay. And then we found out from that recorded interview that he knew just how bad it was. Who was that guy that wrote the book there? I can't think of his name right now. But the guy had recorded him, and he said, "Jesus, this is terrible. It's in the air. People don't know. It's in the air. It's in the air. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad." At the same time, he's telling us this is going to be fine. It's going to go away as soon as the warm weather comes around. I don't want to go back to, rehash COVID, but that's what this reminds me of. He was not straight with us about this. If he had, I probably still would have voted for him, but I would have been able to make some subtle changes.
No, I hear you. Brian, look, let me just say this, and you tell me it's up to you, obviously. I mean, it's your opinion. Look, he did tell us, to be fair to him, he did tell us he was going to impose tariffs. He was crystal clear about that. He was a centerpiece, I won't say centerpiece, but it was a key pillar of his campaign. He said, we're going to have tariffs. It's going to be across the board. We're going to tariff countries. Look, Canada wasn't shocked what happened. Mexico wasn't shocked. Europe wasn't shocked. China clearly wasn't shocked. So in a way, Brian, look, it's like someone says they're going to give you a shot in the arm. And then you say, well, had you told me it was going to hurt, I would have prepared. Well, obviously the tariffs were going to deliver a shock to the system. Anytime you put tariffs, it delivers a shock to the system. So in other words, I don't know if that's fair to say, well, he didn't tell us or he should have prepared us. I think it was pretty obvious. The tariffs were coming. There were going to be strong tariffs, deep, broad tariffs, and there was going to be a disruption in the market. The second point, Brian, and again, you may disagree, you're 63 years old. You're still 2 years away from retirement. I'm telling you now, barring some unforeseen catastrophe, the stock market's going to rebound. Whatever you've lost, you're probably going to get it back and then some. I mean, when we're talking about short-term pain, we're talking about maybe 3-6 months tops. You've got trillions of dollars in investment that's going to pour into the country just from the deals that Trump has lined up right now. So the economy is going to boom. And when the economy booms, so will the stock market, so will your 401k. What say you, Brian?
Here's what I say, Jeff. Not only did he not warn us, absolutely, he's been. It's the only thing that really the guy's been consistent on his whole life is tariffs since the 80s.
Brian, can you do me a favor? Hang on. I'm going to come right back to you. I'm up against a hard break. So we're going to go right back to Brian. He is right. Trump has been very consistent about tariffs going all the way back. Larry King in an interview in 1988. 34 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, so Grace is texting me on my phone. And she's really pulling my chain now. She's having a good time at my expense. Jeff, don't bother coming home tonight. I'm changing the locks. American-made locks. They cost more, but they will work. You can drive around in your American-made car for hours. Enjoy. By the way, I do drive an American car, by the way. But let that go. And my Italian food, it's now 25% more expensive for you. Bravo. Boy, oh boy, a lot of, all I said was Nervous Nelly, and then look at this. Boy, so yeah, is Trump making a lot of people nervous over his tariffs? Hey, you better believe it. 617, and by the way, they're not even paying more yet. So far, I mean, yes, the tariffs technically are kicking in, but it's not as if you're seeing prices go up yet. So in other words, outside of the stock market, obviously taking a bloodbath, outside of that, which I'm not dismissing, obviously, 401ks, as Brian was talking about, it's nothing to sneeze at. I think the market's going to rebound. I think it's going to be made up and then some, but that's another story. But, I mean, there are no, shock prices yet. Things aren't going up yet. So, Grace and others are getting all nervous and nothing's actually happened. Except, as I pointed out to her, food is going down. Eggs are going down. Groceries are going down. Gas is going down. Energy is going down. Interest rates slowly but surely are starting to edge downwards. But, what can I tell you? I mean, they just see the stock market and they start to panic. Paul in South Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Yeah, Paul. Morning.
Hi, Paul.
Jeff, Grace, listen, I love her. She's a sweetheart, man. She's very smart, by the way, very smart. And everything she says is not untrue. Listen, Jeff, I don't want to sound like a misogynist or anything like that, but I'm just going to say this. It's women don't have fortitude. It's the maternal instincts, I think, in them. They don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want any suffering, and there's uncertainty, like the term uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. And it's more, not all women, but even very intelligent women like Grace, who's very, very smart, very knowledgeable. But, Jeff, you're probably going to disagree with this. You have to have some courage. I mean, there's a lot of things that we probably did as a country. Maybe we shouldn't have declared war on Great Britain because it's going to take some hurt. Some people are going to die or something. Or maybe things weren't looking good in the war in the Pacific, maybe in Germany. Things are not looking good. You have to persevere. You have to understand what the ultimate goal is. Now, in China, you need to protect the United States against cheap foreign labor, okay? Bottom line. And that's basically what we're doing. And it's also politics. It's communism. There's a lot of things that this country can do, but yeah, there's going to be suffering. It's that courage that some people are missing because they don't want to have to sacrifice it to fear. And by the way, the media, of course, is gloom and doom with them. They're on the same campaign they were in first Trump term. When we had the very first sign that there was progress being made on the China trade deal, after months, people yelling and screaming, and all of a sudden China, and it's right before COVID, yes, China blinked. China blinked, and they said, hey, there's all of a sudden, they might be coming to some terms. And you know what they said on the news and the stock market? It took a dive. You know why it took a dive? That's your hedge funds. That's all Wall Street trying to sabotage the stock market. And it did. It took a huge dive. When the first time we actually had progress, there was hope, and it went the opposite. Pay no attention to the stock market.
Well, exactly. No, Paul, we've seen this movie before. And Paul, I just got to say, Paul, are you trying to have me sleep on the couch tonight? It's women. It's women. Sandy's going nuts in the control room. Paul, between Sandy and my wife, they're going to kill me here, Paul. Yes. Yeah, Sandy agrees with you. That's what she's saying. She says, Paul, I agree with you in this case. So why are you going after women? No, you agree with me. That's what I'm saying. But Paul is on our side on this, on the tariff issue. So, but she's like, the moment you said women, Sandy charged to the microphone in my ear. Women? What? Women? My wife's going nuts on the text line, by the way. But no, Paul, look, we've seen this movie before. They tried to tank the stock market the first time when he imposed tariffs on China. Can you send your kids to school? Can you put food on the table? Do you have some extra disposable income? I don't know, for a vacation or whatever. Do you have a good quality middle class lifestyle and living standard? That's how we used to judge the American dream. Not the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ. So I'm sorry. On this, I'm with Trump all the way. 50 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare. 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, Kevin O'Leary, former Canadian like myself, now obviously an American citizen. You see him on Shark Tank all the time. I think he's frankly one of the best financial economic minds out there. Very smart, very articulate, knows the markets like nobody else. Is backing Trump now in this tariff war all the way. In fact, his advice now, believe it or not, he's telling Trump, don't stop at 104%, as he just slapped on China as of midnight tonight. He says take it all the way up to 400%. O'Leary says squeeze Chinese heads, i.e. the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, squeeze their heads into the wall. In other words, maximum economic pressure. China needs us. We don't need them, and we can economically break their back. And I'm with Kevin O'Leary all the way. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mike, who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Anytime this century, Mike. Paul in I have Ashburnham. That really, I thought it was Ash. Okay, I'm stand corrected. Paul in Ashburnham. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning.
Hi, Paul.
Unfortunately, I have to inform you, you're probably shut off for a month from the missus.
I mean, just that tariff alone on her pasta, that's gonna hurt me big, Paul.
It is. Unfortunately, that's the way it rolls for us. But my point is, I have no fear in the economy right now, and I'll tell you why. There's several reasons why. One, we're a nation of hyper consumers, so everyone wants our markets. I mean, I don't know about your house, but I get Amazon packages showing up on a daily basis.
Yes.
I think we have our own clipboard.
Yes.
And the second thing is, people are looking at this market drop all wrong. So the sell-off is the hedge funds because they need to make their quotas. So they're selling off. It's driving the market down, and they're going to buy back when it's low. But what it does I'm a blue-collar guy. I've been investing for 30 years. I've made a lot of money with a little. What's approaching is the buying opportunity of a lifetime because these good blue-chip stocks are going down low, and that's when you want to buy. The key is finding out the bottom. Where that is, I don't know. I'm thinking 35, 36. I don't know. Like I said, I'm an average Joe, but I see it as an opportunity. Because people ask me, like, Paul, what would you buy for stocks? And I say, I don't know. Everything is so high. It's overinflated. I don't know where to buy. But now when people call me, I'm going to be like, get your cash together. So in 2005, when we had a crash and the market went way down, I don't remember the numbers now, but I picked up GE for $5 a share. I made a boatload of money on it, and I had nothing. I just gathered the funds that I could get and took the risk. I, too, like you, like risks. And this is how we get ahead.
Paul, honestly, drop the mic. And all kidding aside, this is what I've been trying to tell Grace. I go, look, I remember 2008, 2009. I know it was a big housing crash. I get it. And we hit a recession, a great recession. But the market collapsed and people bought stocks low. And they ended up making a windfall of cash. They made money hand over fist. So when the market goes down, of course, I feel for guys like Brian. He's got his retirement 401k. He's looking at it and he's getting nervous. I get it. But when the market goes down, it will go back up. So buy low, sell high. That's how you put money in your pocket. And so I agree with you. I think now is the time. I mean, again, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just giving my opinion. That's all it is. I think now or soon is the time to buy. If you have some money, buy. That's what I would do. Now, personally, here's what I'm looking at, Paul. This is what, the moment Trump starts signing these deals, he inks a deal with Japan, a deal with South Korea, a deal with the Europeans. The moment he starts inking deal after deal after deal, you're going to see the stock market roar back, investor confidence roar back. To me, that's when I buy. I'm not worried about a trade war with China. This thing could go on for 6 months or a year. We're going to kill them. They're going to regret the day they ever did this. But when he starts inking deals with other good, first world countries, and they're stabilizing that trade relationship, that one that benefits us for a change, Paul, then I know the market's going to start roaring back. I know it's going to rebound. That's when I would buy. Paul, I've got 10 seconds left. Yes or no? Agree, disagree? You can't put him back on to say yes or no, Mike. A simple yes or no? Okay, Paul, if I can be so presumptuous, I think Paul would say yes. He would say probably amen, brother. So, in other words, Grace, sweetheart, if you're listening, don't be a nervous Nelly. Stand your ground. Bye-bye.